Hello, my name is Eddie Archer and I work here at 4Kids of South Florida. Over the next series of videos, we'll be walking through the 4Kids EPIC approach. And this is our parenting model on how we care for kids that are coming from hard places. So EPIC, it's spelled E-P-I-C, and it stands for emotional, physical, intellectual, and character. And what we've tried to do is collect the best evidence-based practices as well as cutting-edge research and bring in our own 4Kids values, our culture, our beliefs to create this intervention, which is meant to address the trauma, to address the abuse, neglect that our kids experienced before they came to us. So the reason that this is so important to us is it's not just a parenting model. For us, this is good parenting. And the reason we're doing this is dealing with behavior reactively and just struggling through that is not enough. We want our kids to heal. So the big goal for us is we want our children to be more than survivors. We want them to experience being their whole and genuine selves. In order for us to implement the 4Kids EPIC approach, we have to begin with learning who our children are. So we're going to do some drawing. So grab a piece of paper and something to write with and follow along with me. First, think about a specific child that you've worked with. Perhaps it's a child that really confused you, that was really hard to work with. Go ahead and write their name at the top of this page. Now that we have that, I'd like you to draw a line in the middle of your paper. On one side, go ahead and draw 0, and on the other side, draw 100. So for us, 0 is going to represent the real child. And when I talk about a child being the real and genuine selves, this is exactly what we're describing. These are when your child is kind of feeling like themselves. They are expressing joy, happiness. And I'd like you to even think about words that describe them when they're at 0, at their best. Whereas on the other end, we have 100, which is the child when they are really struggling and really falling apart. And this is them at their worst. This is them when they are in the worst condition. So here's a couple other lines I'd like you to draw. Around here, go ahead and draw a line. We'll call it 20. And this is important because there's always a point where we can bring the child right back to 0. And that might be with a joke. That might be with just relationship. But I also want you to find another line around here. We'll call it 80. And we write this one because there is a point of no return. Sometimes things get worse before they get better. So now that we have this drawing, I'd like us to use this to actually break down each phase or each range that we tend to see in our children's behavior. All right, let's start with the range 0 to 20. And I'd like to use an analogy of a cell phone to describe what's happening here. This is a very clear and a very good cell phone connection. So communication's easy, it's sharp. And same thing here, the child connecting with you is actually really simple. They have no problem having conversation. Eye contact is easy. We might get some low-level behavioral issues like talking back or demanding an item without asking, but this is generally easy to get right back to their real, genuine selves. So the next range we want to look at is from 20 to 80. And like a cell phone connection that's bad, it works maybe 20 to 80% of the time. So what you might hear and what you might get is static. You might get calls that drop in and drop back out, and it requires you to be a little bit more patient, a little bit more attentive to get the message. And that's the same thing happening with our child. They're losing control. They're losing connection with you. There's moderate to little eye contact, but what you will see is non-compliance. You're going to see aggression, intimidation. One of the things to keep in mind at this stage is that they're quickly depleting their emotional and physical strength. All right, let's move over to the next section, which is from 80 to 100. And this is a cell phone that is out in the middle of a desert by itself. There is absolutely no connection. And this is a child that is not connected to you. And many times they're not connected to themselves. And it requires a very tender and a very aware approach that we'll walk through at each step of this. But you're going to see complete loss of eye contact. They're going to be out of control of themselves. But I want you to remember something. This behavior is not malicious. they're essentially using their survival behavior to get out of that space alive. And I want you to remember that, because we will bring in resources and tools. We will learn how to connect with them when they don't want to connect with you. How do we give them tools and resources to get out of that pit? So again, we're looking forward to having these discussions and going through the rest of these videos with you. Thank you.